Ever wondered about the hidden layers behind global conflicts? Sometimes the most consequential stories aren't just in the headlines. They're woven into complex alliances, just waiting for us to really dig in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one such alliance that carries, well, profound implications for global security. The deepening military cooperation between North Korea and Russia. We've gathered a stack of compelling sources for you, everything from intelligence reports to first-hand battlefield accounts that reveal an unprecedented level of involvement and some truly unexpected details.
Yeah, what's really striking here is how this relationship, which has really solidified since early 2022, it's evolved way beyond just traditional military aid. It's become this complex reciprocal exchange.
An exchange.
Exactly. Both sides are gaining significant and, let's be frank, often illicit strategic benefits. And it's genuinely reshaping things regionally and globally.
That's precisely what we want to unpack for you. Our mission today is to explore how this alliance actually came to be, what it looks like on the ground, say, in Russia's Kursk region, and crucially, what it all means for the bigger picture for international stability. So let's lead into it. Okay, let's start with the origins, the big picture. This cooperation, it isn't entirely new, but it's certainly intensified. Our sources are pretty clear. It accelerated dramatically after Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in early 2022.
Right.
The big shift seems to have started around September 2023. That's when North Korea began shipping really substantial quantities of artillery shells to Russia.
Yeah, and that wasn't just a small thing. It signaled, a burgeoning, really vital supply line for Russia's war effort.
A lifeline, almost.
You could say that. And if we zoom out, a truly pivotal moment came in 2024. That's when Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin signed that bilateral mutual defense treaty.
Yeah, treaty.
Yeah. And this isn't just symbolic, okay? This treaty formally obligates both nations to help each other if attacked. It really elevates their relationship. It's not just transactional anymore. It's a genuine strategic partnership, a military bloc, essentially.
Which changes the game, especially in Northeast Asia.
Definitely. It fundamentally alters the security calculations there.
And then, late 2024, North Korea took what, many analysts are calling an even more drastic step, sending its own troops to Russia to fight in Ukraine. Our sources call this an unprecedented level of involvement for Pyongyang in a foreign war. Initial reports suggested, 10 to 12,000 troops?
Between 10,000 and 12,000, yeah, deployed to the Kursk region, which, just for context, is Russian territory right there bordering Ukraine.
So it's not just arms anymore, it's North Korean boots on the ground in Europe.
Which immediately raises the question, right?
Yeah.
Who exactly are these troops and how are they being used? Are they, frontline fighters or support roles? The answers we're getting are quite revealing.
So sources indicate these aren't just average conscripts. Pyongyang seems to have sent elite military branches, even special operations forces.
That's right. One unit, about 1,500 men, was reportedly commanded by General Kim Yong-bok himself.
Wow. That signals serious commitment, doesn't it?
It really does. This isn't some token gesture. It's a significant dedication of high-value military assets.
And what about keeping it quiet? Was there an effort to hide this?
Oh, absolutely. Initially, anyway, there was this elaborate effort to disguise their origin. These soldiers, they were reportedly trained in Vladivostok, then flown, get this, over 7,000 kilometers directly to Kursk.
7,000 kilometers.
Yeah, and once there, they got Russian uniforms, Russian gear, and even forged ID documents. And the documents listed their origin as Tuva.
Tuva? Why Tuva?
Well, it's this remote, sparsely populated region way out in Siberia, maybe chosen for obscurity, a sort of flimsy, plausible deniability, I suppose.
Trying to control the narrative.
Exactly. Yeah. Though both sides have since publicly acknowledged the deployments, so that initial secrecy didn't last.
Okay, so their roles, have they stayed the same?
No, they've evolved quite a bit.
Yeah.
Initially, some intelligence reports suggested they were used in these highly attritional meat assaults.
Grim term.
It is. Basically, massed infantry attacks, waves of soldiers, often with little cover, just trying to overwhelm positions through sheer numbers, taking heavy losses.
And the purpose in Kursk?
Seemed to be a diversionary tactic.
Yeah.
Pin down Ukrainian forces, expose weaknesses, soak up casualties, essentially, so Russian units could then exploit openings. It's brutal.
But that's change.
It seems so. More recent reports point towards a shift, primarily to support and security operations now. North Korean personnel, often called mercenaries in these accounts, are reportedly manning observation posts, checkpoints, guarding Russian forces in rear areas.
Which frees up Russian regulars for the front lines.
Precisely. And it does underscore this perceived, expendability of these foreign fighters, perhaps, letting Russia preserve its own troops for direct combat. Raises some hard questions.
And the numbers keep growing. Just recently, June 18th, 2025, another 6,000 personnel approved.
Yeah, another 6,000. And this time, specifically, 1,000 sappers for demining and 5,000 military construction workers.
So moving into infrastructure and logistics support, too.
It really signals Russia's growing reliance on this manpower, not just for combat support, but for rebuilding, demining in that border region. It looks like a long-term integration. Russian officials are even talking about building memorials for North Korean soldiers killed there.
Acknowledging the sacrifice, then. But speaking of sacrifice, the losses. They sound staggering.
They really are. British intelligence estimated, over 5,000 to 6,000 North Korean casualties by mid-June 2025, with maybe a third killed in action.
And other estimates.
Ukrainians put it around 3,800 to 4,000 killed and wounded. South Korean intelligence reported about 4,700. Whichever number you use, it points to nearly 50% losses among that initial deployment.
50%. That's almost unbelievable attrition.
It's incredibly high. Largely attributed, as we said, to those initial meat assault tactics. But here's something remarkable. Their adaptability.
So.
Ukrainian soldiers have actually described them as motivated, disciplined, and good with small arms. They noted they seemed fearless under fire, even facing artillery or those FPV drones.
So despite the tactics they were thrown into, they performed effectively.
Apparently so. Some Ukrainian reports even suggested a more disciplined fighting style compared to certain irregular Russian units.
And adapting to modern warfare, drones specifically.
Yeah, this is really noteworthy. Ukrainians observe how quickly they adapted. They apparently went from what looked like World War II tactics to effectively managing drone threats, becoming skilled at, calmly shooting them down with rifles. Reportedly downed Ukrainian drones multiple times. There was even this detail about trying Mylar ponchos to hide from thermal imaging.
Did that work?
Not initially, apparently, but shows they were experimenting, trying to adapt fast. And another thing soldiers noted, they consistently risked their lives to retrieve their fallen comrades.
That says a lot about unit cohesion.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a critical point. What does all this combat experience mean for North Korea itself?
Right. The U.S. has warned about this, haven't they?
Explicitly. That the DPRK is gaining invaluable battlefield experience in Ukraine. Experience they could directly apply in a future conflict, say, against South Korea.
So Ukraine becomes a training ground.
A live training ground, exactly. Especially learning about electronic warfare, counter-drone tactics. It could make them a significantly more dangerous adversary in their own region.
So, okay, given that staggering human cost, why? Why is North Korea doing this? What's the payoff for Kim Jong-un?
Well, it boils down to significant benefits. Financially, for starters, it's a huge windfall. Sources estimate they've gained over $20 billion already.
20 billion.
Yep. Analysts call it a quick and reliable way for Kim Jong-un to make money, funding his missile programs, which are, banned internationally.
And it's not just direct payments, is it?
No. Russia is also reportedly helping modernize North Korean industries, helping North Korean laborers work abroad, basically getting around sanctions. It's a crucial financial lifeline for the regime.
Okay, money is one thing, but what about military tech? That seems even more concerning.
That's perhaps the most ominous part, yes. North Korea is believed to be getting, or maybe has already received, advanced Russian technology. Stuff that could dramatically boost their nuclear and missile programs.
Like what specifically?
We're talking Russian space tech. Things to improve ICBM accuracy, the ability to launch spy satellites, that would be huge for them.
Surveillance capabilities.
Exactly. Also, technical help for building Shahed-style drones, those kamikaze drones. Plus, Russia has reportedly supplied actual hardware, sophisticated drones, electronic warfare systems, even SA-22 surface-to-air missile systems.
Wow. And feedback on their own missiles?
Yes. Getting data back to improve their ballistic missile guidance. As one analyst put it starkly, this access to critical military know-how will only strengthen his threat base.
Against everyone, really.
Pretty much. And don't forget the political backing. Russia using its UN Security Council veto to kill off the panel monitoring sanctions on North Korea.
That was huge.
A massive gift to Pyongyang.
Yeah.
It basically removes a key international check on them. So North Korea might feel emboldened, like they have more room to maneuver aggressively. The U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency warned they're now in their strongest strategic position in decades.
Okay, so North Korea gets money, tech, political cover. What about Russia? What's in it for them besides the manpower we discussed?
Ammunition. just vast quantities of it. North Korea has become an absolutely crucial supplier for Russia's war effort.
How much are we talking?
Estimates range from 4 to 6 million artillery shells over about 20 months, plus over 100 ballistic missiles, self-propelled artillery, long-range rocket launchers.
Millions of shells.
Yeah. Our sources state flatly that North Korean artillery now dominates Russia's ammunition supply in the war. It shows just how vital Pyongyang has become for Moscow to keep fighting.
Which has broader ripple effects, obviously. This whole cooperation, the arms transfers, the troops, it violates UN resolutions, right?
Flagrantly. Multiple standing UN Security Council resolutions. These aren't minor things. It's a direct challenge to the international legal order.
And that new monitoring team.
Right. The 11-nation multilateral sanctions monitor team launched last October specifically because Russia and China scrapped the previous UN enforcement tool. They're trying to track these violations.
But it raises that bigger question, doesn't it, about the erosion of international norms?
Profoundly. When permanent Security Council members just ignore resolutions like this, it really undermines the whole system. And you couple that with North Korea's increasingly aggressive talk towards South Korea. Kim Jong-un saying late last year he now considers the South an enemy.
It just ratchets up the tension on the Korean peninsula.
Massively, making it one of the most volatile spots on the globe right now.
Which explains the reaction from the U.S., South Korea, Japan.
Exactly. Responding with grave concern. Conducting those joint aerial exercises near Jeju Island, it's about signaling commitment, reinforcing deterrence.
Though there's that grim silver lining you mentioned, the chance for the U.S. and South Korea to learn about North Korean tactics from Ukraine.
Yeah, an unexpected, if grim, strategic benefit. Gaining invaluable intelligence directly from the battlefield.
So, wrapping this up, what we've seen is this incredibly complex picture. North Korea's involvement isn't simple. They're providing crucial manpower, even if it's used as cannon fodder sometimes, plus construction workers for Russia.
Right.
And in return, they get combat experience, critical military tech, and desperately needed cash. It's a partnership that's actively changing the war in Ukraine and, maybe more importantly, dramatically strengthening Pyongyang's position globally. They're a bigger player now.
Absolutely. This deepening alliance, it isn't just tactical maneuvering. It's a strategic move with really significant long-term implications. It highlights, starkly I think, the lengths nations will go to achieve their goals and how conflicts can intertwine in unexpected ways, creating whole new sets of threats.
So a lot to think about there. What stands out to you about this complex and frankly dangerous alliance? As you consider what we've discussed, maybe reflect on how these seemingly distant partnerships might continue to reshape global power dynamics and what that really means for the future of international stability, for the rules-based order we often take for granted.